Hello, this is Gerald with Techie Heroes. Today I wanted to go over an easy way for deploying a cPanel server in the cloud. Now, I've worked with quite a few different cloud offerings out there, ranging from Amazon to Rackspace, as well as Google's new cloud offering. One offering I came across was by phoenixNAP. They actually have an easy way for deploying your virtual machine running CentOS with cPanel in the cloud. So I wanted to go through and show how we could actually go about creating a VM and getting our cPanel server running in the cloud. So here's what the client portal looks like for phoenixNAP's cloud offering. And let's go ahead and take a look at our VM options for creating a virtual machine. So first thing here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Create a VM. And the configuration page is quite simple. We have just a few fields we have to fill out. The first field for select a node is simply for the location. Okay, so we actually have three options here for deploying this virtual machine. The first option for the location is Amsterdam, Netherlands. We have Ashburn, Virginia, and Phoenix, Arizona. So let me go ahead and just choose Phoenix, Arizona. And then we just need to name our VM. So the name of the VM will actually be used for the host name when you actually provision the virtual machine. So let me go ahead and just make up a random host name here. Okay. And then by default, they have a few different operating systems that we can choose from. So we have CentOS, Red Hat, Ubuntu, Windows, but we also have CentOS with cPanel and Softaculous. This is actually very nice because not only does it install CentOS, it will automatically install cPanel for you. In addition, it's going to provide the license, so you don't need to worry about going out and purchasing your own license. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose the cPanel option. You do have the ability to create multiple virtual machines at one time. So if you need 5 identical virtual machines all created in the same moment, you could do so. In this particular case, I don't need more than one for our demonstration here, so I'm just going to leave it at 1. And then I just need to configure a root password for my virtual machine. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a real quick password here. And then we can configure the number of vCPUs and the amount of memory we're actually going to need for this particular project. So in this case, I just need one vCPU. And I just need probably about 2 gigs of RAM will be plenty for my purposes. Okay, and then we can choose our storage options. So you can actually add multiple storage devices to your virtual machine. For the primary storage device, by default, it's going to set it at 16 gigabytes. You can easily change this to any amount of storage that you actually need. And what's really nice is this is all scalable, so you can always add more as it's needed. So if I needed 100 gigs down the road, I can easily do so. Or if I needed a terabyte, I can easily add a terabyte of storage to my primary drive. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put 50 gigs of storage. Should be plenty for my purposes. Okay, now my network settings, I have it on custom, so I do have my network being set up a little bit differently. By default, it would actually automatically assign a private and public IP to this virtual machine. So I do have one extra step that I'll have to go through, and I'll do it on this video, but I do have to manually assign my IP to the virtual machine. Typically, that wouldn't be the case. It would be assigned automatically, and then you could override it and give it a static IP if you wanted to. So I'll just leave these settings alone for now. Okay, and the last step here, I just need to basically, accept the terms of service for creating this virtual machine. And then I can click on Create Virtual Machine. The little dialog box here is just, letting us know that we can't recover the root password once this is created. So we just want to make sure we know what that root password is, prior to creating the virtual machine. So let me go ahead and do that now. Okay, so our virtual machine is going through the provisioning process. Should be ready in just a few moments. We do have a lot of options here with this particular service. Now this is built on a VMware environment, which is really nice. So it gives you a very familiar user interface for everyone out there that uses VMware products. So if you're using VM Workstation at home or in the office for creating and managing your virtual machines, that's fantastic because what you can actually do is export your virtual machines on your local machine as an OVF file, for example, and you can easily import it into your image library. Okay, so you could actually import virtual machines into your cloud environment quite easily and use your images as a template for creating future virtual machines. You have the ability to create network storage. We have a load balancer option as well as a firewall option for configuring different firewall rules individually for each location as well. So lots of cool stuff that you can use here. We can go over some of these other features later, but in the meantime, our virtual machine should be done in just a few minutes, so we'll just take a quick look at that. So we can see it's in progress. Typically, it could take anywhere from 2 to maybe upwards of 10 minutes sometimes to finish provisioning the virtual machine. So we'll just give it a couple minutes here to finish. Okay, so it looks like our virtual machine has finished the provisioning process and is ready for us to use. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up real quick here. So there's our new virtual machine. And since I have my network settings a little bit different here on advanced configuration, I have to manually configure my private IPs. The system did automatically assign a public IP for me though. So give me one moment to configure that. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do here is console into the virtual machine. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I'm just going to update the interface here. So by default, it's going to set it to DHCP. I just want to alter this, and I'm going to make mine static. Okay, so for the IP address, I'm just going to give it a static IP. Oops. And actually, on this one, let's make it. Okay, and I'm just going to add a couple name servers as well into my resolve config file. Let's add a couple for Google. Okay. And then I just need to add my gateway. So nothing fancy here, just adding the general IP and network information. So if you want to have a static IP, you can easily change the DHCP option to static, and then you can just go ahead and configure your network settings accordingly. So I'll just enter the gateway. Okay, so now that I have an IP set up here, I just need to go back to my VM, and I need to edit my IP mapping. So we're just going to modify the VM, and we can map our IPs. So by default, I don't have a private IP set up since I had all my configuration set up manually. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And what's really cool here is I can easily add multiple IPs to this virtual machine. So if I want to add a new mapping, let's say I want to do another IP, I can easily assign a new public IP to automatically map to my second private IP. So this is quite useful if I need to have multiple IPs on my server for items such as SSL certificates for clients. So what's really nice is WHM and cPanel support this, and it makes it quite easy to deploy multiple IPs to your virtual machine. And you can scale this as needed, so you can get one IP at a time and add as many as you need for your particular virtual machine. So let's go ahead and return to the VM, minimize this, and we just need to update the virtual machine. Okay, so that'll just take a moment to update. Okay, so our settings are done now for the IPs. So we can look here and we'll actually see we have two public IPs mapped to two private IPs. Okay, so now I should be able to go ahead and use one of these public IPs to access my new cPanel server. And I actually have a firewall with a VPN server, so I should do this through the private IP. Okay, so normally you can use your public IP, of course, but in my case here, I'm actually have quite a few firewall rules set up, and I don't allow this particular port to be accessed from the public internet. So in this case, I'm going to use my private IP, and basically I'm connected to a VPN server that's already on my cloud environment, which will allow me to securely access VMs via the private IP. So let's go ahead and sign into WHM. As you can see, everything's already in place for us. And now we have WHM set up. We didn't have to do any installation process there. The script took care of everything for us. Okay, so you just have to go through your basic setup pages here for all your basic configurations. In this case, I'm just going to leave most of this as the defaults for the demonstration. And I do need to add another IP. So let me go back here. We wanted to add 10.0.0.19. I'm just going to give it. Okay, so normally you can go ahead and go through and manually configure everything here. I'm just going to go ahead and leave everything as the defaults just so we can go ahead and move forward. And let's take a look here. Let's minimize that. So let's go to the final step. So normally you can go ahead and configure everything according to the settings you require for your particular project. I'm just going to use all defaults. Okay, so Your initial installation will include a license. Since this is a fresh install of cPanel, it's going to probably install a trial license for us. Within a few hours, usually, the NOC team will actually go through and assign a license automatically for you to the default IP that was associated to this server. So I'm just going to real quick here go ahead and refresh the license. So we can go ahead and access WHM. So I'm just going to SSH into the server. And again, I'm using my private IP because I'm connected to a VPN server that's located on my the same network. So one moment here. And let me pull this up. All right. So we can simply run this script. It's going to update the cPanel license for us. And that should be ready for us in just a moment. And then that will give us the ability to go ahead and access WHM. All right, so let me just exit this and go to WHM. Oops, there we go. All right, perfect. So you can see here, everything's installed. This will be temporary. The trial license is going to show up until the NOC team can actually go ahead and assign a valid license to this IP. So again, that usually just takes a few hours. It really just depends. But what happens once you install a cPanel virtual machine with them is it will automatically open a ticket that will be taken care of by their support team, and they'll make sure the license is appropriately assigned. So this will disappear, by tomorrow. I'll probably see. This message will be gone altogether. Okay, so now this is how you install WHM cPanel on the cloud using phoenixNAP's offering here. Again, it's really nice because you can easily map your IPs using one-to-one mapping. So if I go here and I take a look at my IPs, perfect. So you can see I have both private IPs that I've added. And actually that one's wrong, so let me edit this. Oops, cancel. And I can go ahead and validate the private IP mapping, and it will show the public IP address assigned. So you can easily add more IPs. You would just add your private IP. So if I wanted to add another one, let's go ahead and pull this up real quick. I can go to modify VM. Oops, wrong thing. And we want to map IPs. So add a new mapping. And let's do 20. And that's how simple it is to add new mapping for your server. We can return to VM, and we'll just update this again. It usually takes 1 or 2 minutes to process and update the firewall. Okay, so we can take a look here. We can see the third IP that we've added is now provisioned in the firewall, or excuse me, the router. So let's go ahead and get that added. Okay, so now we can see the new IP address has been added. It automatically validated it, but we can just go ahead and double check and make sure that the proper routing is in place for the public IP to private IP. So if I take a look here, we can see, just pull up the mapping. We can just double check and verify this by going to map IPs, and you can see that the 10.0.0.20 private IP maps to the correct public IP. So everything looks good, so we can start using that IP within WHM. So again, you could just repeat this process and add as many IPs as you need for your particular project. Great way, this will still support SSL certificates and all that good stuff, so it makes it quite easy to manage compared to a lot of the other offerings out there. So I thought this was pretty neat, made it pretty easy. I had a few extra steps on my particular setup just because of the way I have my networking, but usually you can be up and running probably about 10-15 minutes. You can have a cPanel server deployed. If you ever need to add more to your cluster, very easy to do using this particular offering. One thing I wanted to kind of show here, if you are interested in trying this out, you can go to phoenixNAP.com. If you go to their cloud services under the public cloud offering, you can actually sign up and they'll give you $50 to try it out. So you can actually get a free credit. $50 will go, a long ways. I mean, the configuration I set up would probably, it'd give me almost at least over a month's worth of service for the $50 credit. So definitely a really good deal. I'd recommend at least trying it out and see what you think. I personally like this more so because it has a familiar user interface. I really like the VMware look and feel to it. And it works really well because I'm a big VMware fan. I like using Workstation and those particular tools. You may have a different preference, of course, in your tool set. However, this tool here, it works nicely with a lot of other applications you might be using in your work environment. So definitely worth trying out. Very nice tool. This offering is quite powerful. Can do quite a bit with it. So let me go ahead and get out of this here. Okay. All right. So again, if you want to take a look, you can go ahead and create an account with phoenixNAP. Again, pretty quick process, and they'll have a cloud service set up for you pretty fast. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and we'll definitely have more videos to come.